And my name is Tatum.
And welcome to the second episode of Living the Legacy.
Thank you so much for all the support you showed us on our first video. And if you haven't seen it, make sure to go check it out in the link below. In today's episode, we will be interviewing our grandparents on what it was like living during the Jim Crow era.
So we're going to start with the first question. What was life like back then, as in when you were our age, pre and during the Civil Rights Movement?
Let me begin with the fact that I graduated from high school in 1963, and that was sort of at the front edge of the Civil Rights Movement. At that time, we had a lot of so-called freedom riders, people trying to integrate lunch counters, trying to integrate the public accommodations. Before the Civil Rights Movement, I'd be honest with you, I was not aware of just how unequal and unfair blacks were treated, because that's all I knew. That was the only thing I knew. It had always been that way. As long as you stayed in your quote area, you could go anywhere, do anything. You just stayed with the Black people. We always stayed in our lane.
So, but like it was segregated though. Like the places that you went to were separate from like the places that Caucasians went to.
Yes.
There were certain public accommodations that we could not use, like the public swimming pool in my hometown. Mm-hmm. Black people couldn't use it. The public park with the stadium, the football stadium, Black people didn't play games there. If we went to a courthouse for a trial, Black people sat in the quote colored section. If you went downtown and wanted to stop somewhere and use a bathroom, if they didn't have one marked colored, you couldn't use it. You wanted to drink a water, you had to go to the colored water fountain.
But as far as going to a bar or a restaurant, those were all African-American businesses that we went to. We did not go to any white businesses at all.
When did you fully understand that you were going to be treated differently because of your skin color?
That's kind of hard to say, but I can remember my father we were downtown Fairfield, and there was a small KKK rally that we didn't know was scheduled. And so my father picked me up and carried me. I was maybe about 5 or 6 years old. And you could hear the taunts, people saying that N word and other stuff. But my father kind of ignored that, and he kept walking, and he made sure that I was protected. I guess that would be about the first time that I realized that something different was going on at about age 6.
So what was it like growing up with the Jim Crow laws and stuff?
I didn't really know they were Jim Crow laws, but I know that when we would ride the bus or the trolley, and when you got on those, there was always a sign, and the sign would have white on this side and colored on the other side. And you sat behind the sign. You didn't sit in front of the sign, you sat behind the sign. And one of the things that would happen, if the bus would get crowded, a white man or whatever would come on the bus and take the sign, and he might put it behind the seat that you're sitting in. And if he did that, that meant you had to get out of your seat and go behind that sign. So that was one portion of Jim Crow that I definitely remember. And there were always signs of colored entrance and white entrance.
This is Jim Crow. When I went to take my driver's license test, the written exam, they had a colored section and a white section. The colored section had two or three little raggedy chairs in there, and the white section had some nice seats. So there were all the chairs in the colored section were taken up. So I went over and sat over there at a table to take the test with the white kids. And Betty did too. The instructor told us, no, you can't sit over here. So I took my driver's license test sitting on the window ledge in the colored section.
Did you pass?
Of course I did. But when I did the road test, he failed me.
Oh.
First time.
Okay.
Did you
He
ever
passed Betty, but he failed me.
There was this one restaurant downtown Fairfield. They had some of the best lemon meringue pie you could ever eat in your whole life. But to get the pie, we would have to go through the back entrance and stand outside, and someone would come to the door and they would ask us what we wanted, and they would give it to us at the back door, and then we would take it home. Those were the rules, so that's what we did.
You didn't ever like try to go against, like be like, oh, I'm gonna go through the front door this time? You didn't ever try to like rebel?
I never did because I didn't want to get my head caved in.
No, I remember one time I went to the drive-in theater and I decided to park up front where I can get a good view of the screen. And the sheriff came up to me, and this is, I'm going to quote him. He said, hey, you parked in the wrong place. What do you mean? I'm at the movie theaters. I got a good spot here. It's legal. He said, no, you need to go on over there where the other one's at. That's what he said. You need to go park where the other ones. The other ones.
Did it make you upset how things were?
The most gross thing that I can remember happening that really made everybody upset was the lynching of Emmett Till. You've heard of Emmett Till, right? Yeah. And I think that happened in, I think it was 1954. We had heard about it because it got a lot of publicity. In fact, it got international publicity. And, you know, his mother, Emmett Till's mother, authorized Jet magazine to take pictures of him in his casket. And they opened the casket and they took pictures of him and they published those pictures in Jet magazine. And those pictures went worldwide. And that kind of made people see and understand the type of brutality that was going on during the 50s and on into the early 60s.
We were programmed, we were conditioned. If a white person wanted to get in front of me, they can get in front of me. They just had that right. That was that white privilege, and it was real. And that would, yes. So it made me angry, but yeah, but all the black people were treated that way. So it's just the way it was.
At the same time, all of this stuff was going on. You could see, like this was in the 50s, and you could see that you always read stories about people who were fighting for changes. And like Martin Luther King Jr. and we had some prominent civil rights activists in our own area who were out there trying to make a difference. You would read about this stuff in the papers, and unfortunately, most of the television stations were just as bad. They kind of kept stuff like that off the air.
So the neighborhood that we live in, there's people of different races and stuff. When you were a kid, did you only live next to people that were African American?
Definitely, yes, we did. And there was an alley on the opposite side of the alley. White people lived, so you know we would see them when we were outside in the backyard. And we'll wave and stuff like that, but we never went to the fence and say, hey, neighbor, how you doing? We never did into that stuff. Sometimes when we were playing in the backyard, a ball or something might go across the fence, and they would get the ball and throw it back. So, but there was no animosity or anything like that.
The relationship between blacks and white in the 50s and 60s was good as long as you stayed in your lane, so to speak.
Well, that concludes the second episode of Living the Legacy. We hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share our grandfather stories by sharing this video.
And we will see you in the next episode. Bye!